How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Dialga Palkia Origin Raid Day. This event is going to be taking place on August 10th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. local time, and it's probably one of the most important events you guys can play in Pokemon GO. I am not underselling that either. These two Pokemon are incredibly useful. Okay, first of all though, let's go over the bonuses you guys are going to get access to during this event. So first of all, you're going to get a boosted shiny rate on these Pokemon. It's going to be 1 out of 10 for both Palkia and Dialga. You're also going to get 5 additional free orange passes to use during the day, and you have to claim these during that time window, so between 11 to 5 p.m. Now, if you want to get the max amount of free raids during this event, you want to save your orange raid pass from the day before, keep that in your item bag, and then this way you can do a total of 7 free raids during the event. This is because you're going to get 1 daily free pass during the event day, plus the 5 additional, and then you'll have the 1 in your item bag from the day before. Now, for newer players watching this, you can get more orange passes by spinning gym stops after you've already used one. Obviously, for people who spend money on this game, this isn't really that big of a deal, but for free-to-play players out there, this is a strategy you guys definitely want to use before this event. Now, additionally, we're also going to get 1.5 times raid experience, an increased chance to get Rare Candy XL if you're going to be doing these in person, and we're also going to have the remote raid pass limit increased from 10 to 20. I kind of feel like for this event, they should have definitely increased it more just because there's going to be a lot of people who really want to raid these. Oh well, I guess they just don't want to make as much money, but anyways, the final thing is going to be that we're going to get the legacy movesets, or potentially, you have a chance to get the legacy movesets. These are not going to be guaranteed when you actually catch these Pokemon, which is really unfortunate, but the last time that we had these in rotation, it worked like this as well. But to make things worse, you can't even use an Elite TM if you happen to get the Hundo. So we're going to talk more about this later and how you actually should go about this. Now additionally, there's also going to be an event ticket for $5. This will get you 8 additional orange raid passes to use during the event. And you're also going to get 1 guaranteed Rare Candy XL for every Dialga and Palkia that you catch, which is a super good bonus. They don't always give us this bonus during raid day, so I wanted to highlight that. On top of that, you're also going to get 3 times raid experience and 2 times raid Stardust. I do think that the raid experience bonus is pretty good, because that means you're going to get 30,000 experience per completion, and if you use a Lucky Egg, that's going to be 60,000 experience per raid. So that could actually be a lot of experience if you're doing a lot of these in a short time frame. You can also gift these tickets to your friends, so if you do want someone to raid with you a bit longer during this event, it's a great incentive. I also think the value itself is decent for the ticket if you at least use 5 of the 8 extra passes, but overall, considering the usefulness of these Pokemon, this is actually one ticket I would strongly encourage you guys to pick up and maybe give to your friends if you are feeling generous. Next up, let's go over the adventure effects for Dialga and Palkia Origin. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, you can only use one adventure effect at a time, so you can't use Roar of Time and Spacial Rend simultaneously. It's going to be one or the other, and the same thing goes with the other adventure effects that we have in the game, like Ice Burn or Freeze Shock on White or Black Kyurem, and then also the Necrozma adventure effects. You can only use one of these at one given time. So first of all, let's talk about Dialga's adventure effect, Roar of Time. This is going to pause the timer on your incense or daily incense, Lucky Egg, and Star Piece, and it's going to be really good to use during max battle days or for like a daily adventure incense walk. I mostly use my Roar of Time for my daily adventure incense walks. I don't typically use them during max battle days, but I do have friends that do actually use them during those event days, and it actually is probably one of the best times to do it because you get so much Stardust and experience from completing those, and it probably gets you the most value. Now in terms of the cost, it's going to be 5,000 Stardust plus 5 Dialga Candy in 6-minute increments, so if you wanted to have it for an entire hour, that's going to be 60,000 Stardust and 60 Dialga Candy. Next up, let's go over Palkia's Spacial Rend adventure effect. This is going to increase the spawn radius, basically doubling it, which is extremely useful during major events in Pokemon GO like Go Fest or Go Tour, sometimes even during calm days as well. I think that's a great time to use it if you're actually really focused on that Pokemon, or if you're trying to go for a lot of experience, maybe even like a lot of Stardust. In terms of the cost, it's going to be 5,000 Stardust plus 5 Palkia Candy for 10-minute increments. So if you wanted to use it for a whole hour, it's going to be 30,000 Stardust and 30 Palkia Candy. Now because these adventure effect movesets are not going to be guaranteed on Dialga or Palkia during this event, there is a chance you might end up missing one. So at the very least, I would try to get one each, whether that's from a trade or from the raid itself, and this is because they're both extremely useful. Like, I'm telling you this as a free-to-play player, I use both of them all the time. Like when I go on my walks, I'm using Roar of Time at least to increase the, daily adventure incense once or twice. And then for the Spacial Rend adventure effect, like during major events in Pokemon GO, or for any Stardust boosted event, this is so freaking useful. There is also an additional benefit to using Spacial Rend. For example, if there's like a rare spawn or maybe somebody finds a Hundo, but it's a little bit out of reach or maybe you just can't like drift over to it, you can use Spacial Rend to increase the radius and now you got it. Like, I cannot tell you how many times that's actually happened in game, so it's really good for that reason as well. And as far as Roar of Time goes, I do feel like I have been using this one a bit more often just because the seasonal bonus that we have right now is 30-minute daily incense, and so I have been using that to extend my daily incense a few times, just every now and then. I do build up a lot of rare candy just because I already have most of my legendary Pokemon powered up, so I don't really have that many to invest into. And therefore, a lot of my rare candy just goes into Dialga or into Palkia, but mostly Dialga recently. I would say that it really depends on your playstyle. I think both are perfectly fine. Like, obviously the daily adventure incense is going to be really good if you're trying to get that Galarian bird or even like a shiny Galarian bird, but at the same time, it can be a really frustrating process because you're going to encounter a lot of Galarian birds, and most of them are going to run away due to their catch rate and flee rate. Unless you happen to get the shiny and you get super lucky with that, I just don't really see this being something that a lot of players are going to enjoy, so I don't know. I would say that Spacial Rend is probably the more useful one, even though I personally do use Dialga more often. Now, the reason I'm saying Spacial Rend is probably the more useful adventure effect is because when we have like boosted Stardust events, like during Spotlight Hour, when we have specific Pokemon that are already Stardust boosted, plus like a 2-time Stardust bonus, and then you add Spacial Rend on top of that to increase the radius as you're going from spawn cluster to spawn cluster, the amount of Stardust you get is insane, and the extra spawns make a massive difference. Like, that 5,000 Stardust you spend in 10-minute increments is nothing compared to how much you actually earn from those extra spawns. So overall, I would say like it's probably the more useful adventure effect if you want to farm Stardust in the game. You could also do this during Calm Days for that 3x catch Stardust bonus. And then again, like going back to Dialga with Roar of Time, I think the most beneficial time to use them is not the daily adventure incense walks, but actually during max battle days. And that's because you can actually pause the timer on your Lucky Egg and start piece, so you're not really burning resources in that way, but I guess if you already don't mind spending money on this game, that's probably not the biggest incentive. It really just comes down to your own personal preference though. But those are my thoughts on both adventure effects. I think they're both worth getting, so do not skip either of them. Try to get at least one of each. Now when it comes down to these adventure effects, they're not only useful for just that bonus alone, but also as the special moveset to use in the meta for these Pokemon respectively. So let's talk about them right now. Now when it comes down to Palkia Origin Form, this is one of the best Dragon type attackers in the game, and it's also a non-Mega and a non-Shadow, so you can Lucky Trade it to get a good IV spread as well. We're going to talk more about that later, trust me, that's a really important strategy here. But overall, Palkia Origin Form is definitely the better one of these two, just for its overall meta relevance. Especially when we look at the Master League 2, it's currently sitting in the top 5 right now. Of course, you do want to have Spacial Rend on it, that's extremely important, but then taking a look at Dialga Origin Form, while this is still like a really good Dragon type attacker, it's not nearly as good as Palkia Origin Form. And also in the Open Master League, because of the recent meta changes with the, Zacian and Zamazenta, it is in the top 60 right now there, so it's clearly not as good as Palkia Origin Form. So if you had to prioritize one over the other, Palkia Origin Form definitely makes a lot more sense. That is by far one of the best Pokemon you can invest into in this game. Not only is it a top Dragon type attacker, non-Mega, non-Shadow, but it's also extremely good in the Open Master League. You can also go ahead and give it that secondary charge move and then give it Aqua Tail, which is a really good moveset to have. It's very spammy, so against Rocket Grunts, for example, or even against Rocket Leaders, it's a great one to burn shields. So once again, I think both of these Pokemon are definitely worth investing into, but if I had to pick one over the other, Palkia Origin Form all day. Next up, let's go over the counters you want to ideally use against these Pokemon. So first of all, neither of these are really that difficult to defeat. You guys can probably get it done with like 3 to 4 players, maybe even less than that if you actually have some Pokemon powered up. But overall, when it comes down to Dialga Origin Form, this is going to have a weakness to ground and fighting type Pokemon. So your best counter is going to be Mega Lucario with Force Palm plus Aura Spear. Following that, you could also go with Primal Groudon that has Mud Shot and Precipice Blades. Precipice Blades is going to be a Legacy charge move, and I also forgot to mention on Lucario, Force Palm is going to be a Legacy fast move. Additionally, you also have Mega Garchomp with Mud Shot and Earth Power. Earth Power is also going to be a Legacy charge move, but you can also use Earthquake. Then we have Shadow Groudon with Mud Shot and Precipice Blades. We have regular Lucario with the same moveset, Force Palm and Aura Spear. We have Terrakion with Double Kick and Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword is going to be a Legacy charge move. We have Shadow Conkeldurr with Counter and Dynamic Punch. We have Shadow Excadrill with Mud Slap and Scorching Sands. We have Landorus Therian form with Mud Shot and Sandsear Storm. Sandsear Storm is going to be a Legacy moveset. We have Keldeo with Low Kick and Sacred Sword. Urshifu with Counter and Dynamic Punch, and then finally regular Groudon with Mud Shot and then Precipice Blades. If you don't have any of these Pokemon, I think one of the best budget options you can go with is probably just going to be regular Excadrill with Mud Slap and Scorching Sands, and that's because Excadrill is only a 50 candy evolution, and you can just catch a really high level Drillbur in the wild, evolve it all the way up, spend no Stardust, and boom, now you have a really good ground type attacker to use. But overall, when it comes down to this raid boss, honestly, it's not going to be that difficult. Just use your best Pokemon, try to get at least 4 players in there, and I guarantee you're going to be able to get this one done. Oh, and I forgot to mention this as well, if you also party up with other players, you can actually get even more damage off with the party play bonus, so that's going to be a really good way to actually get these raid bosses done even quicker. Next up, when it comes down to Palkia Origin Form, this one is going to be a little bit more difficult to get done compared to Dialga Origin Form. The weaknesses are going to be specifically from Dragon and Fairy type Pokemon, and then as far as your best counters go, we're going to have Mega Rayquaza with Dragon Tail and Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe is going to be a legacy charge move. You can also use Outrage if you want to, that's going to be perfectly fine. We're also going to have Mega Garchomp with Dragon Tail and Outrage as well, Shadow Salamence with Dragon Tail and Draco Meteor. We're going to have Shadow Dragonite with Dragon Tail and Draco Meteor. Draco Meteor is going to be a legacy charge move. You could also just use Outrage, it's going to be the non-legacy move set there, that's perfectly fine. We have Dialga Origin Form with Dragon Breath and Roar of Time like we talked about earlier. We have Shadow Palkia with Dragon Tail and Draco Meteor, Black Kurim with Dragon Tail and Freeze Shock, Shadow Dialga with Dragon Breath and Draco Meteor, Shadow Regigigas because this thing is so damn powerful with Hidden Power Dragon and then Crush Grip, and then finally we're going to have Palkia Origin Form with Dragon Tail and Spacial Rend. Basically, you guys get the idea, just use your best Dragon type attackers. You could also use Fairy types as well, depending on the weather boost I would have to say, but overall Dragon types are pretty much going to get the job done. Now when it comes down to the hundos for each of these Pokemon, for Dialga Origin Form you want to look out for 2337 on the regular Dialga, and then for the weather boosted you want to look out for 2921. For Palkia Origin Form, you want to look out for 2367 for the regular one, and then for the weather boosted, you want to look for 2958. If you happen to get close to either of these two CPs, take it very seriously. Speaking of seriously, let's talk about some catching tips that could actually help you guys out during this event. I think the most important one is probably going to be the circle lock method. Basically, just hold down the Pokeball to set the circle, wait for the attack animation, and then time your throw so that it lands right as that attack animation finishes. This is the most consistent way to actually get excellent throws, and trust me, on these two Pokemon, it's actually not that difficult. But every little bit counts, like trust me, every little bit counts, and we have no idea how the catch rates are going to be during this event. If they are kind of bad, you could also use the Adventure Effects Ice Burn or Freeze Shock if you do have them. Ice Burn is going to increase the catch rate by 1.5 times. Freeze Shock is going to increase the catch rate by 1.25 times. You can also use Golden Raspberries, which is going to increase the catch rate by 2.5 times, or even Silver Pineapple Berries, which is going to increase the catch rate by 1.8 times. And increase the candy rate by 2.33 times. When it comes down to these two Pokemon specifically, I think farming as much candy as possible during this event is going to be to your best advantage. Like, of course, you can always drop rare candy in after this event ends, but I mean, if you can get more candy during this event, why not, right? You're going to be doing a bunch of raids anyways. So yeah, Silver Pineapple Berries for sure, but there are some other candy tips I want to go over as well. The next one is going to be to have a Dragon Mega Evolution active. Basically, any Dragon type Mega is going to work during this event. Palkia Origin Form and Dialga Origin Form both overlap in the Dragon typing. You could also use a Steel typing for Dialga Origin Form or a Water type for Palkia Origin Form if you don't actually have a Dragon type Mega at Mega Level 3. Whichever one you guys do have at the highest level Mega, like ideally Mega Level 3, that's going to get you more candy and extra large candy, so make sure to use that during this event when you're actually catching these Pokemon. When we were going over the counters for Palkia Origin Form, we went over Mega Rayquaza and Mega Garchomp, but both of those are going to be excellent options because not only are you going to get extra candy for having the Mega Evolution active, but they're also going to do a bunch of damage against the raid boss. Now there is actually another tip I want to go over that's going to be at least 100-kilometer distance trades, and the reason for this is because if you actually trade with at least that much distance apart, you're going to get 3 candy and 1 extra large candy guaranteed. So if you have any friends who you know are going to be using their remote raid passes on these Pokemon, make sure that they actually save them, and then you guys can mirror trade these. You can do 2 special trades every single day, 3 currently during this event right now because of the Cozy Companions. So you can go ahead and farm a ton of candy just from the Dialga that they catch or the Palkia that they catch in different areas. Now I do want to specify, if you don't actually raid that many of these during this event, just do this 100-kilometer distance trade thing for the ones that don't have the special moves. For the ones that do have the special moves, you do want to ideally save those for lucky trades. We're going to talk about that more in a second here, just, I wanted to really highlight that as well. But overall, you guys do get some extra special trades right now in Pokemon GO. Take advantage of them, get the extra candy, you might as well. Now finally, there is actually one more bonus I wanted to go over, and that's going to be the Spotlight Hour on August 26th, which is going to be 2 times transfer candy. This is going to take place from 6 to 7 p.m. local time, so if you actually trade your Dialga and Palkia Origin Form for extra candy with the 100-kilometer distance thing I mentioned, hold on to them, keep them in your Pokemon storage, and then you can transfer them for like 2 more candy during that event. It's the best way to get the most candy on these, and trust me, given their adventure effects, you want to get as much candy as possible. Now with that being said, I do want to go over a few more additional tips and tricks to help you guys make the most out of this event. So there are a few Pokemon that are actually raid locked as far as their evolutions go. The first 2 are going to be Hisuian Quillfish and Galarian Mask. You have to win 10 raids with these Pokemon as your buddy, so great time to actually get those requirements knocked out. We also have Bisharp, which is going to be to win 15 Dark or Steel type raids, so you can do this when you're actually raiding Dialga. Great time to get that one done. Also, for anybody who got the bottle cap, if you're on the task to actually win raid battles, make sure that your bottle cap buddy is in your party when you're doing these raid battles. That's the only way it's going to count. If you're going to be dropping lucky eggs and star pieces during this event as well, I would strongly recommend partying up with at least 4 people, because if one person drops a lucky egg or a star piece in the party, everybody's going to get 30 minutes. Now this only works with a 4-person party. It's not going to work if you only have a party of 2. I'm not really sure why it works this way, but I've done this with incense before and lucky eggs, and trust me, this is the best way to get some extra time on these items. And then finally, we do have Pokegenie for raid support. For those of you out there who just don't have that many trainers in your local area, I would highly recommend hosting through Pokegenie to get the numbers you actually need to beat these raid bosses. Like, they're really not that difficult, but there's going to be a lot of people trying to actually get these done because they're so freaking useful in this game. You could also go ahead and remote raid into these as well if you guys just want to do even more raids. Like I mentioned earlier, the remote raid limit is going to be increased to 20 during this event. Now earlier in the video, I did mention that the special moves on these Pokemon are not going to be guaranteed. And to make things even worse, you can't Elite TM to get their movesets either, and that's because they're going to be adventure effects. So if you are lucky enough to get the hundo, you could still be unlucky enough to not get the special moveset, basically making it an expensive paperweight. So the strategy that I'm going to recommend is to specifically aim for about 5 to 10 of these with their special movesets, and then save them exclusively for your Lucky Friend trades. This will essentially give you a second chance to get a good IV spread because the IV floor from Lucky Trades is going to be 12, 12, 12. That means you're going to have a 1 out of 64 chance of actually rolling the hundo this way. Now, if you buy the event ticket, you're going to get a better value on the raid passes, but you can also just use your save premium passes if you do have them. Don't feel like you have to buy the event ticket, but the extra bonuses you do get are actually pretty nice. So I would say for this event specifically, it is definitely worth picking up that event ticket, but it's totally up to you. Once again, I would strongly recommend cutting yourself off at a certain point if you want to avoid the sunk cost fallacy. I had way too many friends actually just really feed into this during the last time that we had these Pokemon, and while my friend did get the hundo, he didn't get the moveset, so it was pretty damn tragic. I even had a few comments from you guys recently on my videos telling me that you also got the hundo but didn't get the moveset, so you kind of know firsthand here, it's definitely not worth raiding these extensively. That's why I think relying on lucky trades if you end up having bad luck from the raid battles is a more effective approach than raiding non-stop, since the movesets are not going to be guaranteed. I mean, trust me, I cannot think of anything worse than actually getting the hundo and then not getting the special moveset and not being able to Elite TM for it. Maybe in the future we're going to be able to do this, but as of right now, that's not really going to happen in Pokemon Go. So try to mitigate the risk here. That's all I'm trying to say. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much going to cover everything I wanted to go over in this video. If you guys do want to check out some more content, I'm going to recommend these 2 videos right here. And before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all real soon in the next one.